All right. Welcome everybody. This is IEEE's first podcast. The branch here at UT. Yeah, whoop whoop. Just big disclaimer though, real quick. Some of the things that we say and some of the opinions that we might hold aren't representative to the IEEE branch here at UT as a whole or IEEE as a whole. We just thought this would be a great way to talk about any questions that we have, anything personal, any good ideas, and have some fun. Basically, so I'm David Gross. I'm a freshman ECE major here at UT. I'm a communications assistant officer. I'm really into soccer, really into climbing, and I love to talk. Hence why podcast was a super good idea.
Hi guys, I'm Cynthia. I'm a freshman majoring in ECE. I'm also a communications AO, and I'm really into music. I want to learn music production, so maybe like in the future I'll learn that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Hans back at it again, and this time with a podcast. I'm a third-year ECE student. I am the comms director for IEEE, and I'm really into digital art, also making memes. So hit me up, fam.
All right, what up, everyone? My name is Pranesh. I'm a second-year ECE major. I am the External Activities and Events Officer for IEEE. And I love football. I'm a big Chargers fan. Don't at me about it, but I'm into all sports and any other things you guys want to talk about.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much all of us. What we're gonna do is that maybe in different episodes we'll have different people. We'll talk about different topics. But one thing that we really want to start off the first episode with was basically because the thing that's always on our mind right now is, of course, school. And with COVID being in place, with us not being able to meet in person, not being able to have fun, more fun. One question that we had for all of us was kind of, how has your semester with COVID been like? Has it been worse? Has it been better? Did you expect more? Any like personal experiences or whatnot? So if anybody wants to share right now, go ahead.
Yeah, I can go first with that. I mean, I feel for all of us, COVID has been a big change. There's so many things that have been different compared to what it's been in the past. A lot of us never lived through a pandemic, never thought we would live through a pandemic, which is, there's a first for everything. But for me personally, I think it's a little more stressful sometimes, in the sense that you're not used to just sitting at home and doing all of your work. I feel like once you get into college, especially being a second year, I had my college kind of planned out, being in person for a bit, and then being pushed online. It felt like I was on vacation for too long, and it's hard to mix the two together when you're at home trying to do schoolwork. So I think that adjustment period is what's been the most difficult in my experience, but you have to get through it somehow.
And yeah, building off of Pranesh's response to that, yeah, it's been very different, very stressful, but we're resilient. Humans have been resilient, and I think we can get through it, power through it as much as we can. But yeah, it's difficult for a lot of people. Some people like to separate, work and home, and now that you're stuck being at home, it's really hard to differentiate whether, hey, should I do work here in my room or not, or should so it's a different mindset to really get used to. I know during the beginning when we went into quarantine in March, turning on that Zoom and watching professors talk on your screen, it's very different. It's very different. And sometimes, I don't know if I'm alone with this, but sometimes motivation plummets from time to time, especially since not only are we
agree. Yeah, I can totally agree with that. I know. I hope it's not only me, but how many of y'all have felt like you just wanted to take a nap, like in the middle of lecture? You're just like, I can get onto bed, just take a nap right now. I'll get up later and watch everything else and catch up.
No, yeah, that's the worst part about it. Well, like starting like the first week of school, I kind of viewed it as like a double-edged sword, because on one hand, yeah, I wouldn't be able to have fun. I wouldn't be able to like be in person. I wouldn't be able to have someone like, tutor me in person, right? Help me exactly what I need. And I also wouldn't have like the routine, right? Because the thing that sucks so bad about being online is uh, usually you're used to like your body is like conditioned, right? Like you're like, oh, at this time I'd be walking to this part of campus, right? Or at this time I'd be eating. But my schedule has been so out of order to where the point where because there's no one really monitoring you. Like I can show up to a lecture and I can fall asleep and it's okay because there's recorded. And that's like the only benefit I really see to online teaching so far is that you can always watch recorded lectures. But I think that's I don't know if it's been there, in person, but definitely online has that. But yeah, I think the worst part about it is you just start to fall apart. At least that's for me though, because it's already super stressful with my family, right? Because we're all cooped up inside the house. Because I've got two other siblings doing online school as well. And so I literally like for the past 3 months, I rotate in three positions. So it's really me in my room like this. It's me in my kitchen like this. And then me in my dining room like this. And that's about it. And it's terrible. It's like had some pretty bad effects on my body. I think I've gained like 5 pounds, but do
Oh,
not
oh.
recommend. Yeah, that's not.
Tell me about that. Tell me about it.
I know for like,
Oof, yeah.
I know like for me, like as freshmen, it's our first time going into college. And so we don't really have another like college semester that we can, sort of compare right now with. And so especially like as an incoming freshman, I was looking forward to like a lot of like the social life, when you're studying, when you're in classes, you're with people next to you that are also, studying the same thing as you. And I think that was something that I was super looking forward to. And then suddenly everything turned online and we do have Zoom calls, but it's just not the same as like, being in person with other people at like a library or like the EER. And so I think that's definitely one part that COVID has really hit hard for me.
On that note, actually, for both my first years out here, what was one thing you actually heard about UT that you were like so looking forward to before this COVID thing? Like it's the one thing that you wanted to experience when you got here.
I'll be honest with you. It was the party scene. I mean, geez,
Uh,
because one thing that stood out to me so much about UT Austin, and this might actually answer one of the next questions I might ask, but the reason that UT Austin stood out so much to me was that it had everything I needed and I wanted, right? It was already ranked in the top 10 for software, computer, and electrical engineering, right? Not only that, but it had a huge student pool. Some would view that as a bad thing, right? But I thought it was amazing because there's so many people you could meet, right? And along with that, it's in downtown Austin. And downtown Austin isn't like it's a huge city, right? But it isn't something like New York or LA where you can actually really get lost or it feels almost like too congested. Austin's that perfect like branch between like a small town and a huge city, right? And so you have, West Campus, you have the social, you have Sixth Street, and if you're into that type of stuff, right? But it's like, and you have so many like natural like wonders too, right? You can go rock climbing. I thought that was like, like all of that along, of course, with the academics was perfect.
Yeah, I think for me, I would say definitely the location. It's really close to downtown, and so there's a lot of places that you can visit and a lot of like, natural places you can go to as well. And I think also the fact that, there's like a huge student body here. There's so many people you can meet and there's so many organizations because of that. And so you can really get into, whatever you want. You can really step out of what you usually do and just like go explore other things. And there's just so many opportunities for that. And so I think that was definitely one thing that I was looking forward to.
No, yeah, and one thing almost it's kind of a small thing too, but when I first visited the campus, I realized there were so many food trucks. And
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, people don't think about that, but it's like imagine if you went to a school like MIT. I'm sorry, but you're not gonna be seeing, food trucks open at midnight there. And the warm weather, of course, too. I think that's
mhm.
all of it. Yeah, amazing.
that can also turn really bad though for you, the warm weather. I
Oh
will tell
yeah,
you
in
right now,
August,
like
always, yeah.
fall semester last year was insanely hot when you first got there. I'm telling you, you sweat, especially us ECE majors. We're going to the ER, walking from like the Jester dorms all the way to ER. That's a good 10-minute walk there and 10-minute back. So I'm telling you, you're gonna be drenched with sweat during the summer scene. That's it's not exactly a fun thing. But everything else you guys said it's definitely something you should experience. I think one thing that I add, I'm not sure if has done it too, but going to like the first football game here, the home games, those are insanely packed, but it's definitely an experience I think everyone should have when they come to UT.
Mhm. It's definitely like having everyone around there who's really pumped up,
Mhm.
and just it's I'm gonna sound so lame, such a boomer when I say it, but it's the vibe, man. It's the vibe.
It's got a
But yeah,
vibe here.
no shade to the Aggies, but that's the location is definitely what made me pick UT because
Mm.
College Station, nothing happens. Like, oh,
Oh my gosh.
here you can go to downtown and just sometimes you can also just get away from like the college aspect because if you go to downtown there's not really much UT paraphernalia
Yeah,
around there. It's like, hey,
fair enough. I think we just lost Cynthia.
Yeah, so Cynthia just texted me. Her Wi-Fi is acting up. But thank God we're ECE majors, right? So we'll fix that really quick.
Figure it out soon
Yeah,
enough.
we'll figure it out. But for now, one thing though that well, here's my unpopular opinion though, because we're just talking, right, and all that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm a huge sports guy, but
Mm.
football, or at least going to football games, has never ever like gotten my attention. And it's not
Mm.
because it's like I hate football or anything, but it's more of like you get there and you stand and you just kind of like, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just
I'll
me.
tell you right now, David, that's not how it is at UT. Have you been to a UT game before?
No, yeah.
All right, let me tell you right now. So I may be a little biased because I played football growing up. That's one of the few sports I played a lot.
Hmm.
And but even all my friends who like did not watch football or didn't play football had to go to a UT football game. I don't know. Wait, Hans, did you go to the LSU game last year?
Mm.
Okay, for those of you watching who went to the LSU game last year, you know how crowded and how hyped that game was. That was a nail biter. And even if you don't know how the game works, the whole crowd in the stadium, the vibe, the whole stadium gives, especially inside the student section, you'll be as like hyped and pumped up for like UT when they score as
Yeah.
people who actually understand the game too. And like it was so crowded. We were entering the stadium to get our seats. It was like we're all it's like sardines packed in a can. It was just everyone was like packed together and it was so crowded, but it was definitely worth it. Like going, if you go to at least one football game, one big home game, you'll definitely like, no matter if you know how to play the sport or if you've never watched sport in your life, you'll definitely enjoy it. It's definitely like a go-to thing to do. And
No,
yeah.
yeah. I think it's because my experience with football has been, the high school football games, and those weren't exactly the most interesting. But definitely, yeah. I mean, once we get in person, that's on like the list.
Go to,
Actually,
yeah.
that kind of leads to the next question. I think we've kind of already answered why UT, but one other thing that because a lot of, I mean, maybe some viewers, right, are applying to college right now or just finished their college application process. But one thing though, why did y'all choose ECE? Why did it stand out so much to you?
I can go first on that one. I came actually from both of my parents are electrical engineers, so I had a lot of times my dad brought me to his like workplace. He goes to cell towers from time to time, and like at times I really didn't get what happened, but he seemed really interested in it, and he got me hyped up, so I was hyped up. And yeah, I just feel like not only is it interesting, but the future is leading more towards that aspect of technology, just automation, AI, programming, and that's a growing industry. And to be able to be a part of that industry is what motivated me to pick this major specifically.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. If you want the deep stuff, like I am a nut for all the new technologies out there, and like one of my biggest like aspirations, dreams in life is to see like everything we see in sci-fi actually come to reality. So being a part of ECE, you're able to apply your skills to honestly every aspect of engineering and science that is out there. And I think that's the biggest part of it, is how easy it is to apply what you learn in school as an ECE major and connect it with all these different topics. But if you want the short version of why I chose ECE, it's basically because I didn't want to sit at a desk coding tens and thousands of codes for an hour. I wanted to get my hands dirty and some stuff. So the best mixture for that was, I thought, was ECE, and I don't regret that decision. I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, what's it? I have a weird reason. So, um, I think when I first started applying to college, or at least for the first 3 years of high school, I always told myself I'd go in engineering, but I never really wondered why. It was more of I just had this like mentality that, oh well, the smartest people, or at least one of the most a lot of smart people go into engineering, right? So like you want to be the best or something, go with them. But once I started applying, I started kind of reconsidering, and it's really funny because I first applied to UT for business, and then I switched. I know, it was weird. And then 2 weeks after, I kept on regretting my decision so much. And this was Enid, you could change, where you applied, right? And I was also reading this like article on Time Magazine, and it kept on talking about like the future of cybersecurity, AI, right, and like robotics as well, right, and how a lot of nations are like revamping their technology. You know what I mean? And for some
Yeah.
reason, I became like super, super interested in that because what's it called? How do I put this into words? Like, uh, geez, like I kept on thinking of like a Terminator scenario. You know what I mean? It was really, really stupid, but I just kept on thinking that like, if you it's a lot of responsibility. You put this in the wrong hands, and you're gonna end up like destroying the world. And I was really weird. It's like daydream that kept on reoccurring to me. It was like, how awesome would it be able to like be a part of that? Because yeah, a lot of majors are great and whatnot, but when you talk about the future, you're talking about ECE, right?
No,
Not to mention the fact also at that same time, I'm pretty sure it was either like Zuckerberg or one other like maybe Nadella, but they were there like in the U.S. Senate being interviewed about like I think privacy concerns or whatnot. And it's really funny because people kept on uploading clips on YouTube about how these senators had no idea what they were talking about because they were like 80 years old, And it was like I was also super interested in politics, and I was like, how crazy would it be? How many like options could ECE open for me, whether it was coding, whether it was robotics, whether it was AI, or even becoming a politician, but having like a technical background to know how much of an important role technology is going to play in the future. Because in the future, AI is definitely going to, take hold, right?
yeah,
Same with everything, all the innovations that ECE creates. And so, in government, you're going to need people who know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I thought literally like that gives me so many options. Like I can do anything I can do anything I want with that degree.
The world's changing. The world is changing. You gotta adapt to what we see. You and I are very same in that sense. The sci-fi movies, that's what's getting to us.
I know, yeah. It's just
Wow.
Yeah.
I think for me, well, that's true. EC definitely is a super broad like range of careers, and you can do a lot of things with just like an EC background. I think personally for me, before coming into UT, I really did not know what I wanted to do up until like senior year. I didn't know, and like right before I applied. But then I think I started getting into a little bit of computer science because I was taking a few computer science classes in high school. And so I think that's how I sort of got into coding. And I was also taking a few engineering classes that, my school provided. And so I was like, perfect path to probably be ECE. And like, if you think about it, I think it's really cool to think that the things that we're learning right now can actually be applied to so many situations in the real world, and we can do so much with like what we learn at UT. And so I think it's really cool just to think, like what we learn at ECE at UT can really just apply to so many places, like what David was saying. So yeah, I think that's
so
pretty cool.
true. That is so true. It's applicable everywhere. But I really just want to point out the fact that David was this close to being a business major.
I know.
at UT.
I did not think.
yeah, no, it was actually that was one other thing too. So my sister, she's in chemical engineering, right? And so she loves her major and whatnot, but of course it's you got to work, right? That's a lot of work. And so I remember she came home like for Thanksgiving, and she was doing her OChem homework on the table. I took a gander at that. And I got so scared because not like we do OChem and ECE, but we do things of that caliber. And I kept on thinking to myself, oh my God, like am I really gonna, the next 4 years I'm gonna die. Like, if I have a B in high school, I'm gonna fail in college. But you can't have that mentality. Like you cannot let fear drive that decision, because then it's like, I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And actually, if ECE was easy, I really do think everyone would do it. But
Yeah.
it's for the what is it's not for the lighthearted. Yeah, it's
For
a
sure. That's what I mean. A lot of people say that the first few courses you take, like the 302, which is Intro to Electrical Engineering, and 306, Intro to Computer Engineering, they're like the weed out courses for all the freshmen to see who's actually a student who's driven to actually pursue this field. And that's something that I think is a good thing, in a sense that, people who actually are driven to pursue ECE are those who actually end up on top in life, right? If you actually don't feel the need to pursue the career or that major, and you just kind of go through the motions, I don't think it will take you anywhere. And I feel like that's for most majors, for most careers that you pursue. You have to be somewhat driven to that side, to that major or that career, before you want to go anywhere and pursue any goals you have in life. So yeah, it's a good choice though. Like, EC is definitely a good choice for those of you out there who aren't in college yet. I don't know if you will be watching this, but make sure to really decide on what career you want to go to, something you're actually really interested in. And maybe, sometimes the first year of college, a lot of people just choose that time to explore. Like my roommate last year, he was undecided. He came in undecided. He was still salutarian of his high school, all that, but he came into UT undecided because he wasn't sure, whether he wanted to be a chemical engineer or pursue business because of his interest in financing. So he took his first semester, his first year, pursuing clubs and those types of activities before he actually made his decision. I think he is a business major now, because he got onto one of the business clubs here on campus, a finance team, and it's taking him. He's actually driven towards it. So, I feel like anyone out there who's still kind of undecided, just make sure you kind of really take the time to figure out what you really want to do before making that quick jump to a certain career path.
And I feel like, especially if for those who may be watching, if you don't really know which major you want to go in, especially it's good to come into UT, especially because even if you're undecided, there's so many opportunities and a bunch of clubs, like I said earlier, just to get involved in, even though you may have never done it before or you never heard about it before. It's just there's so many ways to just get connected and plugged in into so many places in UT. And so I think that's what's really good.
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time. So to switch over a little bit, one thing. So because we're still relatively new to this podcast and it's only the first episode, I decided to switch things up a bit and maybe include a question that's other than related to ECE or UT. And I'm really into philosophy, which is my third choice of major. But actually, no, I literally applied to USC for philosophy, but that's a whole different story though. Anyway, I guess the big overarching question, for some reason, I've been thinking about this for the past 2 weeks because my dad brought it up, because we were talking about different definitions of success. And basically the question I ask all of you guys is, at what level do you draw balance in your life? Do you prefer diversifying your interests, your goals, your accomplishments, or do you prefer to be a bit more narrow-minded in your focus? And this applies to everything, like whether or not you want to buy 5 boxes of cereal or just focus on buying one. If you want to focus on one class instead of 5, anything. Is it better to be more diversified or more straightforward and oriented on one thing? And think about this a bit deeply, because it applies, in my opinion, to everything you do in life.
For sure.
For sure, yeah. I think it's something that's very dependent on what you're focusing on the focus of your situation. I feel like for goals in life, you need to somewhat narrow it down to focus on one thing, because if you kind of spread out your goals, you kind of spread yourself thin, because each goal is going to have certain things you need to do to pursue it, right? It's definitely good to have a diversified knowledge, like a good base foundation to help build you towards a specific goal. But spreading yourself thin with so many goals that you have, it's going to become hard, and you're going to become indecisive, because as you grow up in life, you have to start to focus on the smaller things, and eventually you won't be able to reach all those goals. So if you put all your time and effort into a single one, it's more of a chance, I feel like personally, that you'll actually be able to achieve it. But all the knowledge that goes into it, all the studying and things like that, it doesn't mean you have to actually just stick to your kind of path. It's always good to just branch out a little, because you never know, what's going to be applicable to your situation. And it's always good to have all that knowledge stored in your head. That's my personal opinion on that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's very dependent on the context, like Pranesh said. You really got to narrow down the more important details of your goals, like long-term wise. But also, I feel like as you are working to those goals, it's also nice to just not get a tunnel vision on just one thing. It's good to, I don't know if anyone watching went to the previous GM that we had this week with
Oh,
James
yes.
Mercier about industry trends. But it's also good to look at the bigger picture as well, not necessarily diversifying for like every possible outcome, but some outcomes that look like they are changing for the better, for something that's probably more profitable or more successful or just more interesting. And I feel like branching off of those things gives you a more place in a puts you in a good place for plenty of opportunities as well. So just branching off of that idea.
The reason I bring this up is because like I mentioned, I was thinking about this for like 2 weeks, right? It was 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you guys know that movie Jobs, the one with Ashton Kutcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one,
Oh,
and it was actually, for some reason, it didn't get like the best reviews, but it was actually a really, really good movie, I thought.
Mhm.
And Ashton Kutcher looks just like Steve Jobs as well. But getting more into it though, at the end of the movie, my mom looked at me a little bit, and she was like, kind of like playing around with me, but she was like, what? Why don't you start your own company? It'd be amazing. What if you become the next Steve Jobs or whatnot? And of course, I gave my typical response of, it takes work. You know what I mean? But also, my dad brought this up, and he was like, I think you missed the point of the movie, because in the point of the movie, it shows that Steve Jobs was in his career extremely successful, right? CEO of not only Apple but Next, and was in charge of being or had a really important role in like a technological revolution, right?
Mhm.
But in the movie, it also showed how he was also kind of like a failure in his like personal life, like
Yeah.
with his relationships, with his children and whatnot, even his health, you know. And it was really funny because my dad brought that up. He's like, I really don't like whenever magazines or movies always tend to portray these. Now, as important as these people are, right? They they portray them as like the definitions of success. And whenever you see somebody that's a bit more mediocre, or mediocre if you would call them, right, that doesn't
Yeah.
focus as much like material success in their career, they're viewed as less of a success. The reason I bring this up is because you can be super, 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 super focused on one certain goal, right? Whether it's like building the next iPhone or whatever it is, but it's always going to come at a cost. Like it's always going to tip the balance. And I
Yeah.
guess everybody has their point, and that's their judgment. But we shouldn't like jump to the conclusion to where we can label some people more of a success than others, because we don't know what circumstances they want to govern their life with. I don't know, a bit deep. I know it's just a movie, but really, like I was like going really deep into it because I started thinking to
Yeah.
myself, like, I could take. Let me think. I mean, I could take a B in this class, and maybe I'd have more experiences, more fun with friends. Really, like, you make all these little tiny decisions in life, whether to balance the scale one way or not.
Mhm.
I don't know. Thought it was super, super interesting.
I
Yeah,
think
and it's a fair point. Oh, sorry, you can go, Cynthia.
Oh, no. I was gonna say, like, yeah, I agree. There's like, I feel like it's really hard to just have one definition for success because success can come in so many different ways. It's like it's like a trade-off, like sometimes you'll be more successful in your academics, but then sometimes you can trade that off for like more of a social life and having more like social connections. So I definitely think that like success, it's just, it depends on the way that the person would interpret it and what that person values more compared to like other topics or like other things. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, success, definitely like you're saying, Cynthia, success is deemed by the person who like sees it for themselves. Like someone who is actually someone who's like a billionaire of some sort. Maybe they saw success was, how much money they could make in life. And then someone else who maybe started their own company and maybe has a successful business, but maybe it's not the richest man in their life, but has a good family that they're supporting also in the background. That's their idea of success. It's always different for every person, and those who watch these other people, they have their own idea of success as well. So no matter what they say, it's not going to be the overall consensus of success. That's more of a subjective term. And so, but it's different for all sorts of people. Steve Jobs, he lived his life like that. He was also a very intense person. Like my dad used to work for Apple, and he used to tell me all these stories about in the main building, like in Cupertino, everyone was so afraid of Steve Jobs. If you weren't a technical person, like you weren't actually an engineer or like someone who worked on the code, like a developer, you were afraid of Steve Jobs because he wasn't friends, or he did not talk to anyone who wasn't smarter than him. And he only talked to engineers, and that tells you a lot. So it means he considered every engineer there, every developer there, smarter than him, and that's someone he could have a good conversation with and actually keep to his level. Everyone else on the executive side, the businesses, all the marketing, could not compare to that. You did not know if you were called up to that top floor. You wanted to avoid Steve Jobs because you did not know if you were going to get fired that day or not. That's how he ran his business. And although it seems very strict and very, very hardcore, it got him places. It got the company to where it is today. And that's just more of a lifestyle thing. Some people work like that, and others work differently. And people like Elon Musk, he seems like a nicer guy, but I would say he's very much the same way. If you are smarter than him or as smart as him, you'll be able to keep up. If you're not, then it's no point working with him.
I mean, honestly, at that point in those companies, those guys like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, yeah, I'll admit they're a different breed because it makes them that way. Because I don't think like the amount of not just stress but just responsibility they have. Like when you're at that top, when you're at the top of the food chain, you can't make any mistakes because everybody looks up to you. When there's something wrong at that company, at the end of the day, it's eventually going to go all the way up to you. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Maybe not for me, but maybe for some other people. But so as we're nearing the end of the podcast, we did want to wrap it up with a meme review, as the default these days. So yeah, let's do that. Just give me 1 second to pull it up.
Let's end this on a funnier note.
Yeah. We went from super deep, and then we're gonna kind of
try to bring it back.
All right.
One thing you'll know about us IEEE officers, we're very into our memes.
We are.
You don't know the half of it, I would say.
So I chose 4
and for
memes.
any viewers later on, right? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there for the viewers. If y'all want to add comments to like what we talked about, if you want to add on to it, feel free to do so, because we really like to talk about these kind of stuff. So maybe not only after we post on our podcast, feel free to talk about it on our Slack and stuff. Shameless plug, but there you go.
So I chose 4 memes. Now these aren't anything off the scale, I don't think, dying of laughter, but they should provoke some thought. So let's take a gander at this one. Hans,
I feel like this is Facebook level meme. So
yeah,
we're
we're just testing out the waters right now. I mean,
okay.
I relate.
Relatability factor
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it a 5. It doesn't make me smile, but it makes my brain kind of like, get some dopamine. So, okay.
Yeah.
I would give it about like a 6 or a 7.
6 or a 7.
Yeah.
I think I give about the same thing. I laugh a little easier.
Yeah.
I enjoy the kind of stuff, but it's definitely relatable. This is very relatable.
Yeah. I'd rate it 3 out of 10.
Nice.
All right, this one, I'm sorry, but this one's gonna have to be a 3 out of 10 for me.
3 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's about the same. Maybe I'll give it a little more. I'm an easy judge here. I'm 4 out of 10. We'll do 4 out of 10
Yeah, I'd
for me.
say 4 out of 10 too.
I pick 4 out of 10 because there's more effort put into it
Mhm,
Oh yeah,
because of
for
the
sure.
the editing and Photoshop. So I'll give it a 4 out of 10.
graphic designer Hans. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, think
All right.
about
So
it.
this
Yeah.
next one I have to explain first because
Okay.
I got off a page. So basically, okay. So we know before we look at it, we know OChem is a pretty hard class, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
If we haven't taken it.
Mhm.
So for those that are watching, this is on Piazza, right? Which is basically kind of like a discussion board kind of website where you can ask your instructors or your TAs a question. And so somebody asked about question number 71 or 7I on the homework, and the instructor said, and then and this made me laugh. This made me laugh because this is the state of this particular class. No, yeah, but how bad does the class have to be to where the instructor says,
Oh
like
man.
just a straight up, like
That is rough. That is
you
so rough.
type those 3 letters in and just said, nah, we're just gonna,
Man.
yeah,
Honestly,
this-
like that happens in ECE courses too. Like you'll get into some circuits, you'll go to your TA and they'll be like, you know what, I don't really know this either. So it's a tough life sometimes. It's a tough life.
all right, and then our final meme. Wait, I gotta rate it. I give this one an 8
Yeah.
because it's authentic. Like this is
Mm.
real life. You know what I mean? That's what makes me laugh so hard. If somebody made this up, I'd be like, oh, haha.
Yeah.
But this is a
I'll get
real Piazza,
I'll give this pretty high too. I think I'll give this a 9, 8 or 9. I feel this in my soul. I definitely felt this in some circuit classes. It was rough.
Yeah, I think I give it like an 8 out of 10 too because it's definitely relatable and it's pretty authentic.
Mhm, mhm. It definitely an art imitates life. So I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
And this next one really does relate to me.
Oh man.
Is
Ooh,
actually very,
Ooh.
very.
Oh
I'm
man.
actually very,
I
very
feel that
productive when this
I
happens.
called
deeply.
it out.
That was me 2 weeks ago.
For all you students out there, I don't care if you're ECE, I don't care if you're engineer, I don't care if you're like even a business major. I don't care what you are. You must relate to this at some point, especially in quarantine. You have had this happen to you.
Not gonna lie. So I have this advertising class that I may or may not have skipped some lecture because it's recorded. It's recorded. But
Yeah.
the thing is, I had an exam, and it's thankfully it's just multiple choice, right? So I had to watch around 12 hours worth of lectures in 4 times the speed
Oh no.
just to know what's going on.
Hey, but honestly, you learned though. I mean, that's
You
just
learn.
it conditions you to learn so much
How
faster.
do you
Will it
I have a
stick with
question.
you? I don't know, but you learn.
I have a question though. How do you guys watch? I can watch max videos at max 2 times speed. I
Oh,
cannot
same.
watch it
I'm
faster
2
than
times
that.
speed also. Actually, I'm
Anything
2 times speed and I still pause.
like anything faster than that, I feel like it's just you can't comprehend it. I don't see how people do that.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing. I think you could do that in like a history class or maybe like an advertising class, maybe because you're just kind of like memorizing the information. But if it's like an actual, class where you have to think, right? Oh wait, that came out. Oh my god. But
David canceled when?
like an advanced circuitry class, where maybe you have to plan it out a little bit more, than just memorizing some dates and whatnot. I cannot go more than 2 times speed. That is.
That's so relatable, honestly.
More
Also,
choice of-
this is my last question actually.
Mhm.
Do you all prefer multiple choice or short answer?
Multiple choice.
Short answer.
I say
Really?
short answer.
Yeah.
I say short answer. I cannot, especially considering what we do now. Multiple choice is not the way. It makes you more confused. That's my thing. I get more confused with multiple choice.
No, because at least actually, I mean, well, maybe you have a different level of thinking, Pranesh, but the way I see it, it's a win-win because regardless, you're kind of like, with a free response, you don't know at all whether you're even within the range of the correct answers, right?
True.
Multiple choice, maybe you could get confused, but at least if you get somewhat within these like 4 answer choices, and you're like, hey, well, there must be something I'm doing all right. I don't know, but that level
What
of
about
just
that partial? What about that
I
partial
was-
credit?
oh, that's actually a
Partial
bad thing.
credit.
Yes, partial
Yeah.
part. Oh, you can't get partial about that.
Especially if those multiple choice questions are weighted like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
like,
rough.
especially in EC, I feel like they give partial pretty generously. And so thankfully, even if you like have no idea what to do, if you just like, like show as much work as you can, they'll give you some points. And so I think that's what saves our grades.
Yeah, you're gonna talk.
Oh, that is so true. That is very true. Actually, one of my roommates, he's taking EE 313 to the signals class, and those tests are rough. But he went through one of his tests and exams, and him and a few other people got this question completely wrong. Like it was not even in the ballpark, and he still got like half credit for that question. That the professor
Wow.
was like, "I feel you. It's okay," and gave him points for it. That's how it works, I guess.
Yeah. But I guess it's also, it has to make sure you put in effort and the process, because that's the thing they want you to learn the most. Not memorization, but as long as you get the process and you're willing to put the effort in, that's what they reward, not necessarily just knowing it off the top of your head.
That's true.
100%.
All right. So I think we've kind of wrapped up everything that we wanted to cover today. As in my opinion, has been a pretty successful podcast. We definitely have a group of very awesome people. And yeah, anybody that's watching, if you're interested in joining IEEE, please contact us. It's an amazing club. We're engineers. We're really, really fun people. And yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And for those of you more interested in this podcast, like Han said earlier, feel free to ask us any questions you want us to talk about, or any topics you want us to talk about, or anything you just want us to do, anything you think might be interesting for us to chat about on this virtual environment.
Yes. And if you guys have any comments or anything y'all want to add, make sure you add them and we'll get to them. And so yeah, if you have any other questions as well, make sure you put them down too. Cool. So yeah, I think this was a pretty successful run. Yeah, thanks to everyone who watched, and stay tuned for our next podcast.
To be dated.
Oh. So yeah, to be determined.
All right. Just do a really awkward wave, but
What's ECE if they're not awkward? Come on. Engineers are socially stunted. We all know this.